Hi, and welcome to Early Retirement Roadmap, the show where I help you prepare for and thrive in early retirement. Some retirement plans are so smart they become dangerous. They require perfect tax moves, perfect market forecasts, perfect withdrawal decisions, and so much sophisticated planning it turns retirement planning into a second career. Now, my plan has and always will be intentionally dumb. I retired at 55 at the end of 2024, and the longer I live on this plan, the more convinced I am that its simplicity may be one of the biggest reasons it works. Now, when I say dumb, I don't mean careless. I mean easy to understand, hard to break, and simple enough I can follow and trust in it no matter what happens in the future. Before I retired, complexity often felt like control. The more scenarios I ran and details I added, the safer the plan seemed. But once you retire, every extra moving part becomes one more thing to monitor, second guess, and potentially mess up. Now, this is the money my wife and I actually live on. Every withdrawal, tax decision, market decline, and surprise expense is very real now. That has changed how I define a smart retirement plan. It is not the plan with the most moving parts. It's the one you can understand, follow, and adjust when real life refuses to match the spreadsheet. So here are 7 parts of my retirement plan I intentionally keep dumb. The takeaway I want you to have from listening to this episode is the message that complexity should have to earn its place. If it does not solve a real problem, it may be creating one. The first intentionally dumb part is how I invest. For pretty much all my investing life, I have used low-cost index funds, sometimes index mutual funds inside retirement accounts, and also exchange-traded funds or ETFs. The idea is simple. Instead of trying to identify which companies or fund managers will outperform, I own broad pieces of the market at a very low cost. My goal is to capture the market return without giving too much of it away in fees, trading costs, taxes, or bad decisions. The latest BIVA scorecard, which is a report of S&P Dow Jones indices comparing actively managed funds with the market indexes they're trying to beat, found that 79% of actively managed large cap US stock funds underperformed the S&P 500 in 2025. And this was the same thing I had read long ago when I first started investing. For years, these long-term scorecards keep showing the same thing, that most actively managed funds do not beat their benchmarks over long periods, especially after expenses. So most of the time, actively managed funds do not beat the market indexes they are trying to beat. But of course, there are some that do. The difficult part is identifying those funds before they do, staying with them through the periods when they don't, and knowing when their luck or skill has changed. I decided a long time ago I did not need that job. Because here's the thing, fees are guaranteed, outperformance is not. So I have always and will forever keep investing intentionally boring, broad diversification, low expenses, and very little need for me to be clever. I prefer to be dumb, or in other words, simple. The second intentionally dumb part is that I use a relatively small number of investments and each has a clear job. Diversification does not mean owning 38 funds. You can own 38 funds and still have the same large companies inside most of them, which is not being diversified at all. You're just, owning 38 funds and making things more complicated than they need to be. My portfolio has broad stock market exposure, some additional growth exposure, some value and dividend exposure, mid-sized companies, and bonds. I also have a very solid cash runway. I could keep adding more funds and more ways to rebalance them, but at some point, the added complexity does not meaningfully improve the plan. It mainly just gives me more knobs to turn and manage, which I don't need. I also do not ask every account to do every job. My cash provides liquidity and gives me somewhere to spend from during a prolonged market decline and recovery. My taxable brokerage stays invested but helps me control my modified adjusted gross income or MAGI to help get subsidies for ACA health insurance premiums. Now, the cash runway can look dumb on a spreadsheet because, of course, cash is going to earn less than stocks over long periods. But its job is not to win a performance contest. Its job is to be there when stocks are down and to provide time for it to recover so I don't have to sell investments to fund my life at the worst possible time. Judging cash by its return is like criticizing a fire extinguisher because it does not heat the house. What may look like a smart looking plan tries to squeeze the highest return out of every dollar. My plan gives different dollars different jobs. That may lower the theoretical maximum return, but it makes the whole plan easier to live with and provides protection. The third intentionally done part is my plan does not require me to predict what the market will do next. Every year, very smart people confidently tell us where interest rates are going, when the recession will arrive, which investment will outperform, and whether everything is about to fall apart. Some will be right, most will be wrong. The simple fact is, we just don't know which ones until it happens. My plan must work no matter what. I do not want to move in and out of the market based on forecasts. That requires two correct decisions: when to get out and when to get back in. And those are two things that are very difficult to get right because, well, I don't have a crystal ball to predict the future. I don't want retirement to depend on predicting the Federal Reserve, inflation's elections, artificial intelligence, or what millions of investors will decide to do next week. Instead, I have an allocation. Cash and bonds reduce the pressure to sell stocks during a bad market and recovery. I can rebalance when the portfolio moves far enough away from the plan and adjust when my life changes. But a frightening headline by itself is not a retirement planning event for me. A complicated plan tries to be right about the future. A resilient plan is just that, resilient, no matter what happens. Any plan that requires me to keep making accurate market calls to me is not really a great retirement plan. The fourth intentionally dumb part is how I use Monte Carlo simulations and other retirement projections. A Monte Carlo simulation runs thousands of possible scenarios using your spending, investments, time horizon, and assumptions. It may say the plan succeeded in 85, 92, or 97%, or whatever number of those scenarios. It is useful, and I use these projections myself. But I do not treat the success percentage like a score I must keep maximizing. Before retirement, a higher number automatically felt better. If 92% was good, 97% felt even better. But that number has more precision than the future does. The simulation depends on assumptions about returns, inflation, spending, lifespan, taxes, and market behavior. Change the assumptions and the answer changes. A 97% result does not mean there is exactly a 3% chance my real retirement will fail. It means the plan worked in 97% of those modeled scenarios using those assumptions. Now, I care about the result, but I care even more about why the plan fails and what I could do if conditions change. Could I reduce optional spending temporarily, postpone large purchases, change where income comes from, or supplement it with part time work doing something I enjoy? What levers can I pull? A flexible plan with a slightly lower model score may be more resilient than a rigid plan with a beautiful score. I would rather know which levers I can pull than stare lovingly at a 99% result and assume the future agrees with it. So, my dumb rule is that a projection is a warning system. It helps me find weaknesses, it does not make decisions for me. The fifth intentionally dumb part is I do not try to win every tax year. Tax planning matters enormously in retirement. I think about capital gains, Roth conversions, and how income affects health insurance costs before Medicare. These decisions can save real money, but there is rarely one move that is best every year. A Roth conversion may make sense in one period and much less sense in another. Before Medicare, managing income for health insurance purposes may matter more. Later, required minimum distributions may become the bigger concern. I have had to remind myself that the goal is not to pay the least possible tax in every individual year. The goal is to make good decisions across my entire retirement while keeping enough flexibility to live the life the money was saved for. The sixth intentionally done part is my spending plan. Nobody can accurately predict every dollar they will spend for the next 30 or 40 years. I can build a careful baseline and estimate health insurance, travel, home repairs, taxes, and normal expenses. But real spending will not move in a smooth line adjusted by exactly the inflation rate every January. Some years will be expensive, the house will need something, a family opportunity will come up, we will take a bigger trip. Other years will naturally be quieter. So I do not need a spending plan that predicts everything. I need one that tells me what to do when the prediction is wrong. I know which spending is essential and which can be adjusted. In a prolonged downturn, I can slow some optional spending rather than pretend nothing changed. After strong markets, I can refill reserves and make room for some of the things we save the money to enjoy. The cash runway means every expense does not necessarily force an investment sale at the worst time when the market is down. The seventh intentionally done part is that the plan has to be understandable by somebody other than me. I may enjoy learning about investments, taxes, and retirement strategies. My wife should not have to inherit a financial escape room if something happens to me. Could she identify the accounts? Does she understand what the cash is for? Could she tell which investments are intended for growth and which provide stability? Is there a clear list of what we own, where it's held, and who to contact? Could the plan continue without me making 12 small decisions every month? A retirement plan that only works while its creator is available to operate it is not robust, it's a complicated hobby. I do not want a plan that is so complex it creates dependency on the person who understands it. So I want my plan to pass the spouse test. I should be able to explain the major pieces and their jobs without a 90-minute presentation and a laser pointer. The same test helps future me. At my current age of 57, I may enjoy managing this. In my 70s and beyond, I may want fewer decisions, not more. Simplicity is not only convenient today, it's risk management for the future. Here is a quick test for your own plan. Can you explain the job of every major account and investment in one or two sentences? Does the added complexity solve a meaningful problem, or does it mainly make the plan feel more sophisticated? Could your spouse or another trusted person understand what to do if you were not available? If the answer is no, the next improvement may not be adding something, it may be removing and or simplifying. My retirement plan is intentionally dumb because I do not want to rely on supposedly brilliant decisions for the rest of my life. I want broad, low cost investments. I want each account to have a clear job. I want a plan that can survive bad markets. I want projections that identify weaknesses instead of controlling my life. I want sensible tax planning. I want spending guardrails instead of supposed precision that doesn't match, well, real life. And I want my wife and my future self to understand the whole thing. So take a look at your own plan and ask, is this complexity protecting me, or is it giving me more ways to interfere with something that already works? Before we go, I'd also like to invite you to consider joining my Patreon. You can join for free, and I have a lot of free tools for you to use. Things like my ACA Manji Estimator, Retirement Readiness Scorecard, Cash Runaway Worksheet, 10 Ways to Lower Your ACA Premiums ebook, and more. If you'd like to go a step further, consider joining as a Roadmap member. It's just $5 a month and gets you early access to new podcast episodes, all of my podcast episodes ad-free, and access to the private Roadmap member community discussion space where paid members can ask questions, share experiences, compare notes, and communicate with others, including me, who are thinking seriously about retirement or living it, and learning from those of us that have retired. You can join my Patreon for free or become a Roadmap member by using the link in the description or show notes. And go to mikeupland.com for all of my media. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, take care and make the most of today.